On the 19th of March 2021, a new eruption started in the southeast corner of Iceland on the Reykjanes peninsula. Although there were signs and signals that this volcanic activity could be anticipated, nobody truly expected what happened next. Something that changed the landscape and the culture of Iceland forever. The volcano happened at a time when the world needed a distraction, when tourism in Iceland was low, and it became something that thousands of people visited, both from all over the world and, of course, including Icelanders themselves. A large proportion of the population went and saw the eruption. And for those of us who were lucky enough to see it in person, we'll never forget that experience. And yet now, exactly a year on from the eruption starting, we're left with as many questions as we have answers. So here we are. We've come today to the Lava Centre to review some of the experiences that others have had at the volcano, as well as look at the footage we ourselves have taken over the period of time that the eruption took place. My name is Josie and Gaitens. I'm a journalist with the Reykjavík Grapevine, and welcome to The Volcano, a memoir. We're now joined by our illustrious leader. This is Valur.
Illustrious leader.
This is Valur Grettisson, editor-in-chief of the Reykjavík Grapevine.
Yes, I'll take it.
We want to talk to you about the story of the volcano from your perspective.
Right.
And I think, give us some context to start off with. You grew up in Iceland. You've lived here your whole life.
Yes.
Tell us the previous volcanic eruptions that you were aware of?
Perhaps just to keep it a bit personal, like the first eruption I ever saw was Hekla. Hekla was like always going off when I was a kid, or like always about to go off.
Right.
Like the biggest part and the party actually of these volcanoes is basically waiting for a volcano. It's more exciting than when it actually burst out, if you think about it, because, for example, Hekla is like the only like pyroclastic volcano in Iceland, and it's the only one that you don't want to be like around like for 50 kilometers basically in radius, literally. I was 11 years old, so it was probably in 1991, and I remember when I was playing like in the night. It was like a beautiful night. But I saw like over the ocean, I saw that like this very red, bright, basically volcano going off. And I remember watching this, and I was absolutely mesmerized by this, of course. And that was like the first time I actually saw a volcano. I also remember like just the tension before it happened. Yeah. It was the only thing that was in TV.
Okay.
It was always when like, at least when I was a kid, it was probably the same like in these years, but for my generation at least, like the news were always like controlling everything in your environment. Like everybody was watching TV TV news, radio, and so on. So it's very loud. So yeah, it was like. But later on, I saw, of course, like the eruption at Eyjafjallajökull. But that was that was very different from everything I've seen. Yeah. You can imagine. It's like just the ash and everything was just so extreme. We drove through it once, and we were like it was literally like being in a very odd grey storm. I've never seen anything like this. And then, of course, I saw the eruption at Fimmvörðuháls, which is very close to and connected to Eyjafjallajökull. Very different, also like a touristic eruption. And there I saw actually like what do you call it? Like it was a river and then a waterfall of lava. And I think it's the highest waterfall ever recorded, like with lava. And it basically just went down to a canyon. But they call it like, it's a waterfall, right? And it was, in a way, it was beautiful, but it was just, yeah, that was something. But nothing could prepare us for, of course, Fagradalsfjall. This is a volcano. It doesn't look like it, but if everything goes as like predicted, this area here will literally open up and there will come fires up here, and there will be a huge volcano. The reason we're here is because there has been a huge seismic activity in this area this morning. There have been like dozens of earthquakes. The biggest ones has been like close to 6 in magnitude, which is huge. And there have been like a... Basically, if you want to find a starting point for that eruption, it was literally the day that the earthquake happened, which was about 5.7 or 8 in magnitude.
And this is the one that was actually the year before. So was it in?
Yeah, it was like in the spring.
In the spring. Okay.
In the spring,
because there were
before.
a couple of earthquakes.
Yeah.
The winter before, in sort of like October.
Yeah, right.
And that's when people started to get a sense that like maybe something is going on. But also earthquakes, not that unusual.
Not that unusual, but like when you go back, this was the moment that everything, like basically something just awoken. It was like a old monster, like just opened its eyes and just a little wiggle room, and like everything just crumbled above it. And of course it was hilarious. I remember we were at work, and I mean, like you said, we're quite like used to eruptions, at least us Icelanders. Earthquakes, sorry. And the thing is, like, I remember there was a computer next to me, and I just like was trying to secure it so it wouldn't go straight down. There were some interns, and they were like, "God damn it! Like, what's happening?" I was like, "Just give it 30 seconds."
You're like, newbies, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah. But it was definitely much harder than we have often felt before, and also because we were downtown, it was a little bit further away often. Mm-hmm. These earthquakes tend to go somewhere else, and often, like, there have been very strong earthquakes. We can't even feel it like downtown.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we felt this one, and not only that, it was of course a hilarious moment where there was an MP, member of the parliament for the Pirate Party. He was in the middle of his speech, like, I don't know even what he was talking about, but he just looked like this, and then he just ran out.
Yeah, and Katrin Jakobsdóttir, the Prime Minister as well,
right.
She was being interviewed live on TV.
Yeah, right.
We have a very strong public health system, that we have the equal access for everybody to that same health system, that we are able to have tests who are... Oh my God, there's an earthquake. Sorry, there was an earthquake right now. Wow. Well, this is Iceland. Sorry about that. But I will just finish the question. Yes, I'm perfectly fine. The house is still strong, so no worries. Oof.
So that moment was captured,
yeah.
And her reaction was quite different.
Yeah, she was like cool as a cucumber, basically. A very Icelandic like a reaction, which is like, oh, okay.
We're good.
Yeah, it's just like few seconds like that. But then of course it was of course incredible to feel it. But I mean, we knew quite quickly on what have happened. This was obviously happening in this area, and this area of course is so complicated when it comes to these eruptions and these what do you call it?
Tectonic movements and so on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have these 5 different areas, and we knew that this was probably close to Svartsengi, or the Black Fields, and this is where the Blue Lagoon is, and people know this area. There's also a very famous mountain there called Thorbjörn. And we thought, we went there even, I think with me and Art, and we visited the place. We even took footage of like the lava, and we were explaining like doesn't look like a volcano, because people always think the volcano is a mountain.
Yeah, this is not active lava. This is still, you're looking at previous eruptions.
Yes.
At this point.
Yeah. Yeah, Icelandic always just say hraun.
Yes.
It's the only word that we have.
I mean, it's same, but it's just, at this point there wasn't actually anything happening.
No, nothing happening.
But what was the point for you where you like you said, that this is very common to have earthquakes and to have volcanic activity of some kind. When were you convinced this was actually going to be an eruption?
It took some time to realize. First, of course, this was a very harsh earthquake, and there were many afterwards, but it was always escalating. The area there is very young, it's the youngest part of Iceland, the last part that was formed, and it's like, it's different, like just when you drive there, it's just different kind of scenery. The lava is different, it is more like, I don't know, it's just like being more on the moon than if you're anywhere else, you know.
Yeah, totally.
So it's like, it's only because it's so young, this area. So it means that when you go to an older areas, like here in the south where we are right now, more things can be happening when it comes to activity in the earth. But when it comes to this area, there are not that many options in the end of the day, actually. So the moment I kind of like realized that something serious was happening, and I was convinced, is that when I called a friend of mine, he lives in Hafnarfjörður, not that far away from where all of this activity was going on. And his father used to be like a very well-known like a volcanologist, or a geologist, sorry. And he said, I mean, it's definitely going to go off. It's just a question about if is it going to be after 15 minutes, a week, or 1 year. But like, not to be fooled or anything, this is not going away, and this will go off.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, like, of course. I mean, why is this escalating so, I mean, slowly? But if you just fast forward, like, I don't know, if you look at the Earth, like just the time of everything is so like slow in a way, but it was happening very fast. So of course, me and Art, we were like just driving around, and I was kind of like convinced that this would happen. We were always kind of thinking about like, where could this happen?
Yes.
Where's the area? And we quickly found out, of course, that Keilir, for example, this is the big like cone kind of a mountain.
It's
there.
like iconic.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody think like this is a volcano, but it's actually the only mountain there is that is not a volcano, because it just went off once and then that's it.
Yeah.
So, but we knew, of course, like these volcanoes in this area are just flat lavas. It just comes up like often like a streak of fire, line of fire.
Like fissure.
Fissure,
yes,
right,
yes.
exactly. And the thing is that we were like trying to find this, and we even went once like in a crazy weather when we were close to Keilir with beer and what was it, like a table and chairs. And I was like drinking einstök beer, and I was kind of convinced when I was there, like this is gonna happen somewhere around here. Today is Wednesday, and it's exactly 1 week since we had our first earthquake. Some scientists think that this earthquake was the one that triggered all of this, what is happening. In these 7 days, we've had, I think it was about 14,000 earthquakes. But there was quite the news on yesterday, or end of Monday, where it said that scientists had satellite images of the area, this area here, on the other side here, they saw exactly what is happening. So,
and what was that? I mean, like, were you sleeping? Did you have bags packed? Like, I mean, how did you deal with that, like, waiting period?
It was weird. Like the earthquakes were tiresome. We were very annoyed by this. This was much more than we were used to. We always get an earthquake here and there. That's not a problem, actually. It's not that it doesn't bother you that much.
You get surprisingly used to it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, of course, slowly it was becoming like very annoying. It was always going off like, ugh, like one more earthquake. And we could even like see it when we were talking to the mayor. We did an interview with him like early on. We saw like this in his eye.
The mayor of Reykjavík.
No, mayor of Grindavík, sorry.
Grindavík, yeah.
And we saw it on him like he wasn't quite calm about it. He was very concerned. Like this, if something happens, like just think about all the possibilities that could happen here. It's like if it's gonna go off, it's probably gonna like destroy the power plant there, because power plants are more or less they are especially like how we are doing it. They basically like built on the volcanoes itself. So if it would go off, it would destroy that.
Yes.
Where do you have power then? Then of course you have the Blue Lagoon, which is like, well,
Important.
it's quite important, I have to say.
Yeah.
So, like, in a way, we wanted the earthquakes to end, but at the same time, we knew the only way for it to end is to erupt.
Yeah.
If it erupts, it will destroy a lot of things. Because if you think about it, I mean, it's like mankind have we have more or less spent everything when it comes to nature and whatnot. But the last thing that we have absolutely no control over is volcanoes.
Yeah.
There is nothing to do about that other than just wait.
And even like, you know, the fact that like all of these scientists were involved in measuring this and anticipating, and yet you still didn't know when and where it was going to happen, even with all of that knowledge.
Exactly. And we, like, slowly they were pinning down the area. It was moving away from Svartsengi, which is of course basically the worst possible place for the eruption to come up. And we saw it forming at Fagradalsfjall. And this area is, I have to say, nobody kind of knew anything about this area before. It was just, it was a very well, like little known area of like of seismic, of volcanic activity, a volcanic area. Fagradalsfjall hadn't at that time like gone off for like 6,000 years, something like that.
Yeah.
It was like thousands of years, while all of the other volcanoes, they had gone off like in, like the last one was like 800 years ago or something. So it was like, everybody was like, what is this Fagradalsfjall? Like, how bad will this be? I mean, how angry are you after 6,000 years of sleeping, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an area that people go to. It's not a tourist area. It's not, you know, no one was walking there or visiting, but it suddenly became, and everyone's focus was on it.
And me, Art, and then Antti, Sophia, our editor our news editor, we were thinking about, like, we need to do something about these quakes. They are absolutely annoying. And I said, I was convinced then, I said, this area is going to go off, like at one time or another. Like, I think it's just a matter of weeks. So we decided to run with a cover, but we were a little bit premature actually.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about this because it didn't really make me laugh. But yeah, you organised this cover with some of the best, worst timing that you possibly could have.
It was best, worst timing is probably the only way to describe this. It was such a perfect time, but it was still like, we didn't like lose the scoop or anything. But the thing is, of course, that me and Art, we drove like to this area where we found ourselves later on hiking constantly. And we were just trying to figure out where will this come up.
Yeah.
And we just wanted a picture of the area before and after, basically.
Okay.
So we sent up a drone, and Art basically flew over all of this area that we felt like there was this could have happened. But the only area that he didn't shoot and cover was the area that it finally came up.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you look at like one of these pages, I think it's in the paper, you can just see like the area, and it's just like here. It's so close that it's incredible actually. So we didn't even get that.
But the paper came out before there had been...
Yeah, just around like, it was almost like just more than 1 month before. Yeah, we talked to Christine at the Met office. She was becoming like more famous than the Prime Minister because he was always in the news.
So what we are seeing now in our data points towards magma, and the word magma is something we use for lava while it's underground.
Yes.
So it's essentially the same material, but when it comes to the surface, we call it lava.
Exactly.
So let's think about lava, magma, which is intruding into the crust and moving, sometimes slowly, but sometimes fast. both upwards and horizontally.
Okay.
So what we think we have been seeing now in the recent days is magma migrating both upwards and to the sides. And it seems that yesterday at 2:30 there was the magma was moving very fast.
We call it harmonic tremor pulse.
Well,
Is that right?
let's just call it tremor.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's not call it volcanic tremor, but it was like small earthquakes
Okay.
happening very, very frequently. So they just overlap in time. So it's like tick, 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 tick. And what we think is happening is that the magma is moving very fast or quite fast, and it's kind of breaking the crust. So it's breaking the rock all around itself.
Yeah, certain names and faces, and funnily of people who are not necessarily like the most necessarily comfortable even being on the front of newspapers.
Yeah, right. They were thrust upon it.
Overnight, they became the biggest celebrities in Iceland. At the same time that all of this is going on, you also are doing, this is also the same time as COVID. There's less tourism in Iceland. The mood and the landscape in Iceland is quite different. And as kind of part of that, you had started doing these newscasts, these walking news shows.
Yeah, right.
Which was going so well. We're getting interest. Obviously, people who couldn't travel to Iceland and who wanted to keep up with news, people who'd moved away.
Yeah.
And then the earthquakes started.
Yeah, right.
Things changed, right?
That is a very good point. Of course, we started this like Art basically, he came up with the idea, like I came up with the idea to have news, but Art said but I didn't want to do it basically because I have such a strong Icelandic accent, and I mean,
haven't noticed.
No, I know it's hard to notice it. I hide it very well, but I decided also just when I started speaking English, I mean, perhaps I could like be more with an American accent or something, but I think it would be weird, right? But anyways, it ended up like being Art insisted that I would do this, and I basically said like, okay, but let's do it in a different kind of way, because I had a dog at the same time, and it was a complete coincidence, and this dog was of course Polly.
You might have noticed.
Yeah, might have noticed.
She's a bit of a star, way more than us.
And I decided, like, how about just me going out throwing frisbees and just telling the news at the same time? And we did this like for the longest time, and it was it went well. But when the earthquake started, we saw just that everything was going higher and higher and higher on this YouTube channel. Went from people like 1,000 to 2,000 watching us, to up to like perhaps 20,000 watching a video, which was huge for us at the time, of course. And we did this again and again. We were like, okay, people are really into these earthquakes for some reason. They're incredibly annoying, but let's just ride that wave, I guess. And so we did. And of course, this was in some ways the beginning of like just how well this YouTube channel ended up being, like how successful we went on being, like in this like the hardest time when it comes to COVID and everything, and the media was basically losing all their advertisement and readers, and I mean there was nobody on the streets, and we were a street paper.
Yeah.
It was insane, but all of a sudden we changed that somehow.
That's basically how this all started, and this tension was building, the earthquakes were happening, the YouTube numbers were climbing, everyone's on TV, everyone's waiting. But we had to wait a while, and we're going to get to the next part, to the actual eruption in the next episode, so stay tuned.